33-year-old state assemblyman Zoran Mdani, born 1991, delivering a major upset in the New York City mayoral primary last night, a contest that some are saying could forecast the future of the broader Democratic Party. President Trump weighing in on Mamdani's expected victory just within the past hour, slamming him as a, quote, 100% communist lunatic and warning that, quote, Democrats have crossed the line. A self-described Democratic socialist, Mdani poised to beat former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who had been backed by prominent figures in the party's establishment after running on a platform that he says should serve as a model for the National Democratic Party.
So President Trump just weighed in and called you a communist lunatic. What do you say to that?
You know, this is not the first time that President Trump is going to comment on myself.
The next mayor of New York City will have to work with the Trump administration. Are you willing to do that? Will you do that?
I will work with the Trump administration when it is to the benefit of New Yorkers. My approach will never be reflexive, whether in agreement or opposition, but if it comes at the expense of the New Yorkers that I'm running to serve, then no, I will not be working with the administration on harming the people that I look to represent.
And one of the things that we've said, beyond saying we're going to make this a sanctuary city for LGBTQIA+ New Yorkers, beyond saying that we're going to establish an office of LGBTQIA+ affairs, is also that we're going to provide $65 million in funding for gender-affirming care, the same amount of funding that the federal government threatened to pull out from local providers for that kind of work. And in this moment especially, if we want to fight the Trump administration, we have to do so by fully funding our own services, taxing the wealthiest New Yorkers and corporations here.
What is Sharia law? Yes.
You denounce it, though. I'm asking you.
I am running for mayor.
I know, but I'm asking you. That's the point. If you're going to run for mayor, you have to denounce it. Do you denounce that?
What is Sharia law?
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to continue our coverage of the fallout that is happening in the Democrat Party as a result of the earthquake election that happened out in New York City in their primary, where you have a Muslim socialist by the name of Zoran Mdani winning over Andrew Cuomo, okay, who is the son of Mario, and apparently the other son of Mario, Chris Cuomo. He's not too happy about it.
How do you keep them from having the nuke? Impeach Trump is the opposite of having a better idea. You're killing your party. You're killing your party. And look, I hope it works out for you. I hope you guys splinter off and become, you know, whatever you really are. Because you're not a capitalist and you're not a Democrat. And, you know, you could say, well, what do you know? I was raised by a real one. I was raised by a real one. Go ahead and criticize Mario Cuomo. What's going to be your biggest insult? That he spawned me and Andrew? Is that going to be the best you have? Because you ain't shit compared to him. Not in terms of intelligence, not in terms of success, not in terms of pedigree, not in terms of philosophy, not in terms of mission, not in terms of eloquence, not in terms of charisma, not in terms of anything. Certainly not electability. You are killing your party because you are not a real one. Because you're doing what's good for you in a vacuum with your little social media following. You're no different than a pod bro. And you're killing your party. And Democrats better wake the fuck up and realize that you're better than this. Be with the 80, not the 20. Okay?
He has been lashing out at AOC for days now for supporting Mdani because AOC is a representation of the progressive Democrat Party, right? The socialist part of the Democrat Party that some people believe is going to ultimately be the downfall of the Democrat Party. I mean, I believe that they're ultimately going to be the downfall of the Democrat Party because I believe that they're too extreme for America.
How much above people's expectations that Mr. Mamdani's performance was, that we have a choice to listen to that message that people are sending us or not. And I think it's important. It's not just about, this isn't just about Mr. Mdani as an individual. This is about the message that the people of New York City are trying to send to our party. And particularly in the fact that the entire Democratic establishment, when given a broad range of candidates to support across all sorts of different ideas, still decided to stubbornly choose Andrew Cuomo, who is a leader, who has been a leader for a very long time when the people are clearly asking for generational change, I think it speaks to the fact that I think a lot of those lessons do need to be learned. And I hope that they're learned soon. And I think we should all be rooting for the city's success. And I'm confident that we will be moving forward together. I'm very grateful to many of the leaders who are encouraging and willing to unite and move forward together as a team.
Okay, however, we will see. But there is some indications that Democrats do believe that the extremist wing of their party has gotten out of control to the point where some of them don't really want to be associated with Zoran Mdani. Okay, this is why you have reports about House Democrats literally running away from reporters asking about Zoran Mdani. Okay, so they are being confronted about Zoran Mdani, and you have some that are just, flat out running away. They're saying, nah, I don't want to answer questions. Okay. Greg Meeks from New York said, I'm talking to some of my colleagues. They're very concerned about it. I'm not going to lie. That concerns me also because we need to be in the majority right now. Our nation is at stake. Okay. You have some other Democrats, like, for example, Pat Ryan, Josh Riley, Dan Goldman, and Richie Torres. They actively dodge reporters or shut down questions. Axios reported Thursday, while Lauren Gillen and Tom Sozzi voiced direct opposition to his candidacy, right? Quote, he is absolutely the wrong choice for New York, Gillen's statement read, and Sozzi, who endorsed Cuomo, cited serious concerns with Mdani. Yeah, so again, you have Democrats either running away or just flat out opposing this guy, okay? And reporters are asking Democrats across the country, hey, do you support socialism?
Will you support his candidacy and will you back him?
The election just completed. I had a chance to call and congratulate him on the Tuesday's primary and look forward to having conversation. Obviously, there's areas of difference in our positions, but I also think we need to have those conversations. But in the meantime, I truly am not focused on the politics. We're 6 months away from Inauguration Day, and that'll determine who I'm working with for the next 4 years. And that's important because what I'm doing, I'm focusing on affordability and making New York City safe and making the state safe. So that's my primary objective right now.
So are you skeptical then of him and then also the will of New York City voters, New York Democratic primary voters? Do you think that their choice is not valid?
No, I don't see how you can possibly conclude that from what I just said. I said that I'm going to be having conversations. I want to find out, positions on specific issues. But in the meantime, I'm working closely with Mayor Eric Adams, who is the mayor, who we have a lot of work to do to get through, a crisis right now. We just had a lot of people in our city, under siege with, excessive temperatures. We have to keep making sure our subways are safe, building more housing under City of Yes, which we are able to get over the finish line. So as much as there's a lot of people, perhaps even in this room, who are very focused on the politics, I don't have the luxury to do that. I focus on governing and delivering for New Yorkers and working with the people that are in government today.
Yeah, so that is Kathy Hochul basically being non-committal on supporting Zoran Mdani, right? Or basically expressing support for his candidacy as the Democrat Party nominee for mayor. Okay, and again, the reason why she's doing that is because, again, Democrats see the writing on the wall, okay? They know that there's blood in the water, and the extremists, the sharks, are circling the establishment Democrats, and they understand that they're on the menu, right? They are on the menu, okay? And, you do have some Democrats that are coming out and just saying, you know what? This is the direction that we need to go in, right? We need to become more socialist, right? Some Democrats are just saying that out loud on television, mask off, let's just become a party of socialists.
This is a unified Democratic Party that's big enough for David Jolly and Mdani and Andy Bashir and others, because it knows the opportunity to apply democratic values in this moment of change is what actually allows us to win and to change policy. What we all agree on, Mdani, Jolly, Bashir, Booker, everyone else, the economy should work for everybody, the government should serve its people, and everyone should be welcomed, celebrated, and lifted up, regardless of where you were born, who you love, who you worship, or the color of your skin. This is a big enough Democratic Party to take that message into next November.
of our agenda in the Oversight Committee.
Congressman, we just had an enormous political upset here in New York City in which a assemblyman, Zoran Mdani, just won the Democratic primary for mayor. And I wonder, though New York City is certainly not entirely analogous to the rest of the country, his win was very compelling in all kinds of parts of the city across many backgrounds. So I wonder, what lessons do you think the National Democrats can draw from this? I just specifically want to ask you about the kind of excitement that Mr. Mdani has inspired. We're seeing Democrats from again, all different political persuasions come together to support this candidate. You know, has the National Party been focused too much on simply fighting Donald Trump rhetorically? Is there a positive message that Democrats should embrace? Why aren't they able to excite the base the way Mr. Mdani has?
First, this was a huge win. Congratulations to him. And I think as a former mayor, I looked at this race and this campaign. What he was able to do was to capture the energy of the people on the ground that right now are struggling and they want their costs lowered. Democrats should take lessons from his win. He ran an excellent campaign. He reached out to voters on digital platforms. And I think, I've been hearing a lot of folks talk about why he won or why he had support. To me, it's crystal clear. He had good ideas, and he took those ideas and campaigned across New York City and to implement those. And so I think this is a moment for Democrats to absolutely learn good lessons from that campaign. I congratulate them. I think his campaign is exciting. And let's be really clear. He is the Democratic nominee for mayor of New York City. Democrats need to get on board. This is the future, and we have a lot of lessons, I think, positive to learn.
So on that note, one thing that cannot escape attention is that he is just 33 years old. Your party, of course, has been gripped in internal debate for that part of a year now about the age of its leadership. That included President Biden, but certainly not limited to him. Do you think that this victory is voters telling your party it is time to turn the page?
Yes, and I think it's important to note that the Democratic Party has struggled. We know this already, but it is also now expanding the tent. It is looking at new leaders. We should always be looking at the next generation of folks to bring to the table. There is an energy out there. People are fired up. I am grateful to have been elected by my colleagues to this role. I get the difference and for some folks, the change that also represents here in Congress. And what Zoran is doing in New York City is something also that is reaching not just voters there, but across the country. The Democrats need to embrace the young people in our party that are demanding change, that are out there and actually promoting good ideas that appeal to the American public. And I think it's an exciting moment for the party.
Yeah, so socialism is a good idea for the Democrat Party. You heard it there. Socialism is a good idea for the Democrat Party. Like I told you guys, it is mask off, okay? That's what a lot of these lunatics actually really believe, right? And I just want to show you guys visually how uncomfortable this question is for Democrats, because you have Elizabeth Warren, who is a socialist, right? She's also a socialist. She is going to get confronted by this CNBC panel on whether or not she supports Zoran Mdani and his ideas. And I just want you guys to watch this woman squirm, right? She gets extremely uncomfortable with this line of questioning. So without further ado, let's get into it.
You've heard about soul searching in the Democratic Party, a lot of hand wringing with what we've seen since the election. In the Democratic circles as well, the term lost in the wilderness comes to mind. I don't know whether we had a primary election for the mayor in New York yesterday, Senator, 2 days ago. Candidate Mdani is a self-proclaimed socialist, advocated for defunding the police, globalizing the intifada. We have Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez leading the field for 2028. I'm just wondering whether, well, A, did you speak out for or against the mayoral candidate? Did you congratulate him? And do you think this is the best strategy for your party right now to lurch even further to the far left after what happened in the last election?
You know, I think you're wrong on the whole defund the police and all, but look, I know that this is something that conservatives want to keep raising over and over, but But I want to make a different point here. I think you misunderstand what his campaign was all about. His campaign was saying, I want to invest in New York City. I want to invest in people being able to have good jobs here, to put their kids in school, and to build housing. And he built a grassroots campaign. He didn't have a billionaire who came in and funded him. He didn't say, I'm going to make this a great place for billionaires to live. He said, I'm going to try as hard as I can to make New York City a place that works better for your family. And you know what? New Yorkers heard him. They believed him. They were inspired by him. And I think that's exactly what we should be doing. We should be, as the Democratic Party, the party that makes it clear that we are here for working families. We want to reduce the cost of housing. We want child care. We want our kids to be able to get a good education. The Republicans right now, with this tax bill that they're trying to push through, are really showing the contrast. They think they should be able to pay for tax giveaways to billionaires by taking away health care from 16 million Americans. They don't want to make investments in child care. They don't want to make investments in housing. They want to take away clean energy credits, which will drive up the cost of utilities for families all across this country. There is nothing in this Republican proposal that's about centering families and trying to make this economy work for them instead of for a handful of billionaires.
Yeah, so I want you guys to understand what Elizabeth Warren just did there, right? She was asked a very specific question about whether or not she supports this guy. Does she endorse his ideas? Now, what she did is that she did what she always does in these interviews, is that she tries to reframe the conversation in a way that is more comfortable for her without actually answering the question, right? She claims that, well, Republicans, you guys are the ones, or conservatives are the ones that bring up defund the police, or you want to make it about defund the police. No, we're not making it about defund the police. Zoran Mdani wants to defund the police. He ran on defunding the police, right? Like that is a part of his campaign.
Are you for defunding the police? Are you for serious reform that people can see on the ground?
I am in favor of defunding the police.
Can you elaborate?
Yes. What that means is that right now in New York City, we have a budget of close to $6 billion for the New York City Police Department. Mm-hmm. And that is an astronomical figure.
Wow.
And I think that what we need to do is not chip away $1 million or $5 million. I think in this first year, we need to take $1 billion out of that budget. And I think that we need to reinvest that money into social services.
So it is a deflection and a lie to basically say that, well, this is a conversation that Republicans want to have. When no, this is a conversation that Zoran Mdani wants to have. He believes in defunding the police. Also on top of that, she fails to talk about his specific policy proposals. Like, for example, rent freezes, or the state-owned grocery stores, right? The city-owned grocery stores that he want, like stuff like that, just flat out socialism. Yeah, she doesn't really mention that stuff, and she tries to reframe it in the typical Democrat Party generic talking points, right? Which, again, is not answering the question, right? She's not really saying whether or not she actually supports the guy, okay? And this panel is not going to let her get away with trying to then deflect the conversation to start talking about Trump, right, and the Republicans.
I think that's a pretty good place for the Democratic Party to go.
Senator, just back to Mdani, he has some pretty argumentative views that a lot of people have disagreed with. There is some old footage of him saying that if Benjamin Netanyahu were to arrive in New York City, he'd have him arrested. Do you agree with that?
Look, I can't speak for him. I can only speak for myself.
For
yeah, and what I'm saying is the key that we talk about and need to keep talking about is the economy for American families. And that, in my view, is exactly what this race was about.
What are your thoughts on Netanyahu? Because these are some of the feelings that...
Netanyahu has been here. Nobody arrested him. What happens, though, what is happening, though, is that...
Yeah, I can't lie. I'm sick and tired of the media asking about Israel, asking about Benjamin Netanyahu. Like, the dude is running for mayor of New York City, right? I don't care what he thinks about Israel. I don't care what he thinks about Benjamin Netanyahu. In fact, yeah, I don't care what he thinks about another foreign country, right? I don't care what country it is. And I think the media is making a mistake by trying to make this dude, and however he views Israel, whatever his views are on Israel, I think that trying to make that the main line of attack against this guy is a huge mistake, right? And I think that they should avoid that and focus on what actually really matters, which is that he's a socialist, right? Focus on that. I can't believe they're wasting time in this interview boo-hoo-whining and crying about how he feels about Netanyahu. It doesn't matter. He's the mayor of New York, okay? This is not an international position. He is simply, again, the mayor of New York, okay? So I don't care about how he feels about Netanyahu or Israel.
Families is that families across this country are struggling, and the response of the Republicans right now in Congress, we will be voting today. The response of the Republicans is let's take health care away from 16 million Americans so they can do tax giveations to billionaires.
They're telling us we got to get out.
American values.
Now I have to interrupt. Now I'm doing what I said I wasn't going to do, but Senator, we don't have a lot of time left. Do you think he's a socialist? He's a self-avowed socialist. Do you think socialism is the correct path to do what you just said you wanted to do for working Americans? Do you? I mean, that's what he is. Let's just talk about, and we're the center of the universe for capitalism in New York City. And Wall Street, whether you love it or hate it, I know it has a connotation in certain areas, but it's the financial engine for all the great things that happen in the U.S. in terms of the private sector and raising money for companies and the stock market. All these great things that provide all the jobs. That's where you get the tax money to spend on all these great things you want to spend it on. You think that's the right thing for New York City?
You don't have to push me. I believe in markets. I love markets. I think markets are fabulous when they're honest markets. As you know, because we've had these discussions before. For example, we need markets with rules. Markets without rules are just theft. And that's part of why we need strong antitrust enforcement. But what our new mayor, I hope will be mayor-elect in New York City, is talking about is how to make that economy work for families. Where is your outrage over a Republican Party that is saying we want to fund even more tax giveaways to billionaires? We want to make sure that Meta gets a check, if this bill passes, for $15 billion, not for anything they do in the future, but for investments they made 3 years ago. We want to give them a check for $15 billion while we take away health care from everyone else, while we drive up utility costs for everyone else. That's not how we build a strong economy. You believe in markets, then you should believe in participation by the employees so that they get some of the wealth that they help create. And part of that means that through government, we create opportunities, not just for the billionaires to be able to come in and help build these buildings, but also to the workers who help build them as well. That's
Senator
what
Warren.
this whole fight is about.
Yeah. So you see that, you heard that, okay? For whatever reason, she believes that markets without guardrails, in her, I guess, definition, right, is theft. But for whatever reason, the high taxation that she's calling for, right, is not theft, right? Taxation is not theft, but markets without guardrails. Basically, the government saying, hey, listen, you do a free exchange without us interfering, right? That is theft, okay? But taxation, the government come in and say, hey, we're going to take your money that you earned, your hard-earned, we're going to take that. That is not theft, according to her, right? Elizabeth Warren is a socialist. She knows how toxic socialism actually is, or mask off socialism is, and this is why she can't come out here with a straight face and actually really say, hey, yeah, I support the guy and all of his policies, because she knows that, again, it's not good, okay, to come out here and just outright support it, but also her constituents, if she says anything bad, right, if she criticizes the guy, then she's going to take a lot of backlash. So, yeah, I personally believe that Democrats are struggling right now when it comes to the internal battle over whether or not they should just become mask-off socialists. Now, we already know the Democrat Party is far left. But, again, having that socialist label and just coming out and say, yeah, we're a socialist party, that is a different step, right? That is a whole new level. That, I mean, quite honestly, I'm gonna be real with you. If they decided to do that, I would appreciate it, because then it's no more gaslighting, right? It's no more gaslighting. You're just telling us who you are and what you believe, and that's okay, right? That is okay. So who knows? Maybe, again, this guy winning will make the Democrat Party more honest, and then voters can be more informed in regards to what they're voting for. Because regardless, Democrats are still far left. So if they come out and they are more clear about what they believe in, which is socialism, then maybe voters will be more informed about what they're voting for, right? Because some people, they'll gaslight themselves into believing that Democrats aren't far left and that they're voting for a reasonable party, but they're not, right? They're voting for socialists. So Democrats just might as well come out and just embrace socialism, because that's basically where they are at this point, right? That's where they are. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.